Good afternoon, this is Jacob Wheeler with Red Rock Roofing, standing for greatness. Today we're here at 2931 Cortez, doing a quick roof inspection for Ed. Ed, thank you so much for allowing us on your roof today. As always, I want to try to start on the ground if possible, and of course, in this one we can. So as I make my way up the ladder here, it brings me to your guttering system here. So I just want to point out a couple things in the gutter system. Obviously, you can see in here that there are some granule loss in here. Nothing too much, but it's definitely starting to be pretty consistent throughout the system. Other thing that we talked about, of course, there are a lot of leaves in the gutter system. Not a big deal. Something that Ed and I both spoke about earlier today. All right, bear with me just a moment here. As I make my way up the ladder, I do want to point out one other thing, of course. Drip edge. Drip edge is actually code. What that is a metal flange 2 inches by 2 inches that encapsulates the eaves. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing that in this system at all, so that is something that is a code item that you are missing. All right, bear with me a minute while I go and make my way up the ladder. All right, so I just want to point out a couple things while we come up here. We went ahead and marked up the roofs on several locations with chalk just to make it a little more obvious. The first thing that any kind of insurance adjuster is going to look for is what's called collateral damage. What that is signs or indicators that hail has hit the roofing system on these soft metals, which, as there was a storm in 2019 and in 2022, we do see some of that. Next thing we want to look for is what's called spalling. Spalling is when hail hits the roof, dislodges the granules, showing the fiberglass underlayment underneath. Now, in this regards, typically, we're looking for about 6 to 10 hits per surface, or by a 10 foot by 10 foot square, and I am seeing that here, and I'm going to go and get you a little bit closer on this. Again, what's happening is hail is hitting this area, dislodging all of those granules, as you can see here too, if I don't cover up the light. Showing that fiberglass underneath. And I'm actually seeing pretty consistent hail damage throughout the system. So I do think this is a great option for you to talk to about insurance and the next steps. However, I want to go over several things as well. If you see here, I have a large circle out here. The reason for that is this is actually a very soft area. It's soft underfoot. Speaking of underfoot, as a whole, the shingles are very, very crispy. The reason for this is just a lack of ventilation. I do see that you have these turtle vents throughout the system. However, this is actually a great candidate for a ridge vent system that'll actually go from end to guarantee proper ventilation. It'll basically eliminate any kind of heat blisters and heat cracking, which I'm actually seeing pretty consistently inside of the shingles. Moving on to a few other pieces of information here. I know, Ed, when we talked initially, you had me talk about the skylights up here. So I just want to point out, I am seeing out of the 5 skylights up here, 2 of them actually appear to be holding some water and some moisture in there. So definitely want to get that resolved as well. A few other things that I noticed is some of the adhesive on the shingle system is actually completely eliminated. Like if you look here, we call this zippering, where if I lift up one shingle rather, multiple shingles are actually coming up. Unfortunately, they're just not sticking any longer. And I'm seeing this pretty throughout. This shingle here, for example, here rather, just lifts up immediately. Other than that, I do want to talk a little bit about the flat roofing system as well. We are seeing some issues. This is obviously a little bit spent. You can kind of see how all of the heat blistering and heat cracking and repairs that have been done here before. At this point, the flat roof is completely done. We definitely want to replace this as soon as possible. Over here,
the flat roof comes up today.
Normally we would want to see the flat roof material actually come up a couple of feet up here underneath the shingling system. Unfortunately, you can see that it's actually ending right here. So that's not exactly efficient either. So we would definitely want to fix that code item as well. Last thing I want to point out is we do see some flashing here lifted up underneath the chimney system here. Unfortunately, that could be a great place for water to migrate. And there's also these really soft areas where water's probably migrated in the past. Could be some decking issues, it's hard to tell from here, but you can definitely see, if you take a look here, very soft areas. Definitely a major concern for us too. Other than that, I always want to highlight some positives as well. Overall, the roof has lasted a good while. Overall, you do have ventilation up here. Not the best ventilation, not the newest ventilation, but you do have it. And of course, I want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to get up here on the roof and label everything. Hopefully you see everything that I do. Once again, Jacob Wheeler, Red Rock Roofing, standing for greatness.